Uh, all right. Hey, Ryan, thanks so much for joining me today on Leftist and Chill. How you doing today? Good to be with you.
I'm doing really well. How are you
Yeah.
doing?
I'm doing especially well. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, Ryan. We've invited you here in the spirit of building leftist unity, strength, and power. In that same spirit, thank you for being willing to chat and share your story and share some life tips. And then, of course, we've got the Leftist Inquisition or questionnaire at the end, and then we'll invite some questions from chat. Sounds good? Ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do the thing. Here we go. Starting right off the bat. Ryan, this is Where Are They Now? What do you do? Where can people find you on the social medias?
Yeah. So I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana right now, which is not quite a big hub for organizing and leftist politics, but we are working on it. I am currently the organizing coordinator for rootsaction.org. Most recently, that has meant nohoneymoon.org, which it was before that, it was Vote Trump Out. We started as leftists voting Trump out, spent months talking to progressives and leftists on social media directly about, we say, voting Trump out because voting for Biden hurts deeply on the inside to talk about. And it still hurts. But we voted Trump out, and then we immediately launched nohoneymoon.org, which is probably a better website to show.
Okay. Yeah.
Our Roots Action one needs some updates, but nohoneymoon.org is a fantastic place. And that was all about pushing Biden left, which is a bit of a meme now on Twitter. But the whole campaign was about pushing Biden as much as we could. And we have a lot of victories under our belt just in these first 100 days. We're at like day 93 or 92 right now. But we did all sorts of really cool things. And we have a lot more things in the works right now, not quite ready to announce. And then locally here in Indiana, I also helped launch Fort Wayne DSA a couple months ago, and we got that going. We did our first ProAct text bank last weekend, sent out a cool 10, 12,000 texts.
Yeah.
We're doing all sorts of stuff here. We had a fucking Ku Klux Klan rally here. Yeah, bro. Yeah, it's shocking.
Oh.
We had one in Auburn, Indiana. Not we. There was one in Auburn, Indiana. Right. A couple weeks ago, and a bunch of us showed up there. It ended up with about 200 people at a counter-protest food drive thing. Had trucks driving by yelling white power at us. Brutal, wild shit. You didn't think that would be happening in 2021, but it most definitely is.
All right.
So,
all right.
Yeah. Fort Wayne DSA and Roots Action and the No Honeymoon campaign. That's where you can find me. And then on Twitter at RBPolitic. That's where you can find me tweeting, hopefully decent tweets, hot takes.
Yeah, I love it. So we know each other because, we're sort of in a similar field. We both, produce leftist streams. You do video as well. Do you also do podcasts?
I do not. I briefly started one before I started working with Roots Action because I just needed a political outlet, but I'm not doing that anymore. I do host Thursday calls with Roots Action and No Honeymoon, though. And I've had all sorts of speakers on. We talked to Nina Turner on the Fight for 15, talked to Bill Fletcher Jr. on labor and not repeating the mistakes of Obama. We had your boy Kenzo Shibata on to talk about Rahm Emanuel and his supposed, he was being considered for ambassadorships to Japan or China, which was bizarre. Looks like we defeated him there. We sent probably 25,000 emails to representatives about that. We've had we had Judith Whitmer on, who's the new chair of the Nevada Dems, who won that race and took over that party, which is cool. We've talked to all sorts of people. Tomorrow, we're going to have on James Bradley, who is an author who wrote Flags of Our Fathers, and several other books. He's like a Western Pacific historian. And then also Hyun Lee, who is just an anti-war peace activist. So we're going to be talking about China, North Korea, and how we can create peace in the Western Pacific tomorrow night. So that should be a fun one.
Oh my gosh. Wow, you stay quite busy over there, Ryan.
We try
what else?
to.
Yeah, what else, dude? Any other profession?
I reached out to you a couple weeks ago because, I watch Kenzo sometimes. I see you around. You started popping up on Twitter, and I said, oh, man, I need to reach out to this guy for some tips on making my streams look nicer. So I really appreciate you connecting with me a couple weeks ago and chatting with me about that.
Oh, my pleasure. It's what I do. It's what we do, right? Yeah. I mean, nothing else needs to be said about that. Hey, well, what else? Anything else you want to mention in terms of what you're doing, what's keeping you busy, current projects, be them professional or anything else leftist related, politics related, etc. Anything else you feel like mentioning, going into detail? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting Roots Action involved with ProAct text banking. We're going to be sending some texts towards the end of the campaign, but getting in late, but better late than never. Mm-hmm. We do have a couple big projects launching soon that I can't quite talk about yet, but that are keeping us busy, and we're constantly having meetings about. So I can't reveal anything yet, but we are definitely staying busy. We have a lot of big things in the future. Yeah. Obviously, when you're on a campaign called No Honeymoon, there is a sunset to that because we're about to hit the 100 days mark. People aren't talking about the honeymoon phase anymore with Biden, and he really didn't get one compared to other presidents. There was at least some friction at all times, and constantly the left was alive and awake for immediately with Biden, which has been good, and constantly putting pressure on him. We were pretty much headed the campaign to prevent Neera Tanden from joining the cabinet. And we sent about 30,000 emails there to representatives, just a ton.
Amazing.
Thousands and thousands of phone calls and voicemails to representatives, tons of op-eds and just articles out there. We did so much, and we succeeded, at least in some capacity. At the very least, we prevented any other Democrats from really rushing to her aid, which was a good feeling. And then more recently, we did the same thing with Rahm Emanuel. One thing I like to tell people who are new to organizing, especially for these cabinet position stuff, the best time to defeat people is before they're nominated. Once they're nominated, it is tough. It is so tough because the political establishment has already dotted their I's and crossed their T's, and they know the pathway to get someone confirmed. But we stopped Neera Tanden, Rahm Emanuel before they were nominated, as well as a name you've probably never heard. Most people haven't. Michelle Flournoy. She was going to be the Secretary of Defense. That was the reported top pick for Joe Biden for Secretary of Defense, but she is a militarist through and through in her DNA. We ended up with General Lloyd Austin. Not perfect, so much better than the alternative. So, we had lots of wins so far with No Honeymoon, which was great. And we have lots more coming up down the road that I will let you know about as soon as I can.
Hey, Ryan, this show is very much about beginning the discussion. It's about planting seeds so that we can dig more deeply down into important issues down the road. And very much like to think, I want you to think of this as us, letting this grow, and we'll see what we can dig in, get into a little bit more depth next time we talk. Perfect. So let's talk then, Ryan, a little bit about your leftward bound journey. A discussion here about your pathway to leftism. We also have left adjacent folks on. You don't have to define your ideology, Ryan, or your politics in any way. You're encouraged to do so if you feel comfortable. How about we just sort of start there and let you go at it?
Yeah. So I'm a little older than I look. Hopefully that's still true. But I started college in 2009, 2010. Yeah. And I discovered TYT, which was, to this day, look, a lot of people have moved past TYT. A lot of us have moved way to the left of TYT. They're still important because for that 15-year-old playing Call of Duty, it's better he discovered TYT than Ben Shapiro, right? It is a gateway to the left, and they were my gateway to the left. So I discovered TYT, got into that for a couple years. Occupy Wall Street popped off while I was in college, so I started being an activist, I guess, for that, and was in the streets and in marches, and we had a little Occupy Wall Street kind of home base in one of the parks in Bloomington, Indiana, at Indiana University. So that was really cool. And that's back when, I'd meet people and they would identify as I'm an anarcho-communist. And I was like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is yet. So I was still so new to things, and I was just starting this journey. But, TYT leads to Kyle Kalinske and Humanist Report and all these other shows, and I start dabbling, and eventually I find Majority Report, and I find Michael Brooks, and Michael Brooks was a huge deal for pushing me left, because he was such a likable person who was also extremely knowledgeable. And then from there, I discovered Richard Wolff, who was kind of like the final nail in the coffin, in which I essentially became an anti-capitalist. And, you move from progressive to socialist, essentially. And that's where I'm at now, where, words lose their meaning like progressive sometimes, especially on the internet. And there are homes and there are really strong foundations for talking about this stuff and having discussions about it. So a lot of my movement left just started with the YouTube scene. What's called is it called BreadTube now? I don't know.
Yeah, personally, I've renounced any relationship with BreadTube, but I've fully embraced.
I don't know what it is.
BeardTube. It doesn't. It's just lefty streamers. It's just not a big deal.
I would fully endorse BeardTube, except as a 30-year-old person, I'm physically incapable of growing facial hair. So it's a lifelong struggle.
You could be an honorary member if you like. I know. I
might get a fake one or something. Get a nice. Kenzo had that killer, that gray, dude. I want the gray. What's going on?
Get that salt and pepper, baby. It's a good look.
That's right. So So that was my journey left as a person, but I also had a professional journey left as well. Because I work in politics right now. I've worked on and off in politics since college. It started, I'm in school. Me and my buddy started making videos for local campaigns. That's what I went to school for, was media production, video work. And they were fine. I don't remember anything about the campaigns because they weren't very noteworthy. Just local campaigns. No one's doing anything extreme or anything like that. Just some basic Democrat stuff. And that was a lot of fun. And me and my buddy started a business after college, and we were making videos for OFA and, all these just establishment Dem groups. And it was okay. And it got my feet wet, and I got to learn a lot. And then I got a job on a actual Senate campaign. Allison Grimes, who was the last person in 2014 to run against Mitch McConnell. And she was the Secretary of State. At the time, it was the most expensive Senate race in U.S. history. We had there was like a $60 million spent on our race. It was just every race does more money than that now. But at the time, it was a big deal. So I got to see the inner workings of a deeply establishment campaign. And people got in trouble on that campaign. There were laws broken on it. If you look it up, there was indictments from that campaign. Just crazy shit. Wow. So I got to see all that up close and personal, working deep with a campaign. They drink a lot on campaigns. I don't know if you know that. They drink a lot on campaigns.
But they do.
So after that, I went back to my business. 2015, I linked up with Larry Lessig, who was an early primary contender for the 2016 nomination. And he ran a single issue campaign, which was getting money out of politics. I traveled with him to Ferguson, Missouri, which was a defining moment in my life, because talking to people from Ferguson, Missouri about, I mean, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but my God, everything you see with the police today was going on then, and it's always been going on, but it was so clear. We interviewed a woman about always getting pulled over and targeted by the cops. She was pulled over by the cops on the way to the interview. She's pulled over every single day, and given tickets that they can't. You either have the option to work or go to court. So they just set you up for failure. It was brutal. Ended up making a video for Bernie Sanders in 2016, which was really cool. I was working in and out of marketing campaigns. 2018, then I got to actually manage my own campaign. A lady I used to work for decided to run for Congress. She hit me up to make a video for her. made a video for her, and then she was like, just be my campaign manager. And I was like, no, absolutely not. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, okay, yeah, let's do this. And that was a huge moment too, when you actually get to manage a campaign from scratch, not taking corporate money, being a progressive in a rich white district. We were the third candidate to enter that race, and we won that primary. One of the ladies we were against, Heather Ross, she raised over $1 million, was backed by the DCCC, Emily's List, all your establishment goons had her back, and we crushed her in the primary because we had like a really serious field team, and I was launching canvases and targeting the right voters and not hiring many consultants, because that is just a pit of money. And they don't help you that much. They get shit done, but not very well a lot of the time. Don't reject them outright, but like doing things on your own is so much more efficient and better if you can. So I learned that.
Congrats, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we ended up losing the general, but it's a district that a Democrat's never won, and we swung it 10 or 11 points. It was a huge swing. And then actually in 2020, it became a DCCC targeted red to blue district, which they blew. But yeah, I did some work there, which was really cool. And, you know, just learning about the power of having a candidate that doesn't take corporate money and is honest and is empathetic is you can do work pretty much anywhere in the country with a good candidate and no dirty money. So that's what we did, and it was awesome. And I was working at a marketing company until last year when I've joined Roots Action. So started in this deep establishment world, and just slowly grew out of it and worked my way out of it to now I'm probably on one of those blacklists where they will absolutely never hire me again in that world.
I worry about the same. Having put my face out there so much, talking about how much I love the communisms.
Oh, yeah, you'll never get a job on a Democratic Party, not an establishment campaign.
Oh, well.
Hey, I also worked on, here's an interesting one. I also worked, man, I got to figure out what I'm allowed to say here. Briefly, technically, oh man, how do I say this? There was another candidate in 2016 named Wayne Messam. He was a mayor in Florida who tried to run for president, and I helped him do his launch, his live stream, and like get his digital going, and gave him a lot of advice and stuff. And then dropped out shortly after, and he just didn't pay any of his staff. So like we were like, okay, well, we're done here. So I lost a lot of money, had to sell. Let me tell you this, man.
Sorry, dude.
I had to sell all my Bitcoin 3 years ago because of that.
Like actual Bitcoin?
Yeah, man.
You say all of them. Honestly, more than like one is a lot.
No, I didn't even have one. I had like half a Bitcoin at a time, but I had like 10 Ethereum.
Okay. Yeah.
Dude, I missed out on, I should have like 50, 60 grand right now. It's brutal. It's terrible. But I wasn't making any money, so it is what it is.
Dude, that guy always.
But that experience was also very insightful into seeing how a candidate works, and like needing to have stuff on paper, even if you're fighting for someone whose main thing is canceling student debt. We helped launch that into the mainstream conversation, but didn't work out. Whatever, it's okay. But now I'm doing as much leftist stuff as I can now, and actually trying to push because a better world is possible.
Yeah, a better world is possible.
Right.
So Ryan, then what else is there? Are there any other aspects of politics, leftist theory, thinking, history, personal experiences, etc., anything else helped to pull your mind and heart to the left?
I'd say I grew up really poor. Grew up in a trailer park. Not a nice area. Lots of drugs. Lots of crime. And kind of working my way out of that. And when I went to college, I remember getting there, and I learned two things on the first day. One, I was poor because everyone else there was not. And two, that I wasn't that smart, which was shocking to me because I left high school thinking like, I know I'm pretty smart. I'm going to be fine in college. And I get there and realize, oh, I went to a really, really bad school system, like a really bad school. and everyone I'm meeting is just infinitely more prepared than me, and they come from money and they have no worries, and they can spend money and do things and go out to eat and not worried about how much they're putting on their college, whatever it's called, their meal points, whatever it is where you go is meal points for us.
Yeah.
That helped a lot in pushing me left and just seeing like, oh my God, is there a home for me? Because I'll never be able to compete with these people. You can compete with those people, but it's difficult and it's scary at first. So I think that helped a lot. You know, I was the youngest of four, so I was always competitive and trying to be right. And when you actually try to be right, it turns out leftists are pretty much right on everything, which was useful. Yeah. And then also playing sports was big for me too. Highly competitive, and it feels like cheating to have like the privilege of like a straight white male, you know? When I think if we're like in this capitalist society, we're all competing against one another, and it's not fair. None of the rules are fair, and that strikes me just really, really wrong. So changing the rules was the first thing I wanted to do, but now I'm ready to flip the board over, flip the game over.
Hey. Okay. Anything else you'd like to mention about your leftward bound journey, Ryan?
No, I think that was most of it. There's a really great book that really helped by Larry Lessig, Lawrence Lessig, called Republic Lost, that really explores money in politics and how no matter what we do over time, money has always found a way to seep into politics. And that is one of the core, if not the core issue within American politics right now.
Okay. About the political system itself. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So then, hey, we get to step back then. And
okay.
In #BeBest, we can ask you to take a 30,000-foot view at your life and distill it down into some life tips or shortcuts, anything that maybe you could tell a younger version of yourself to get ahead in life more quickly, or to maybe push you or pull you to the left more quickly. I don't know. It's a hypothetical. It's a weird question, but what might you share given the chance?
You know, I would say first off, build things to last. You know, it's okay to try things out. Try a lot of different things, but build foundations places. Learn skills. If you want to get into politics, it does not matter what skill you have. You can bring it to politics. And I think, Dan, you're a really great example of that. You are now working in the political world and you're like a media producer. And when you go to college or you're taking classes, you're learning these things, they don't tell you about all those possibilities. So I think right away, the skill you pick up and the things you're interested in don't have to immediately connect right away, but they can connect later on if you can make them connect. If you're a computer programmer, there's so much the left needs in terms of technological infrastructure, like unbelievable amount of stuff. So it doesn't really matter what you're doing, what your skill is. There's room for you and we need you. And it's a matter of sometimes we just need people like you to tell us what it is you can do to help. So I would say that, building this foundation of skills and continuing to build upon that, and do more. Do more. As soon as you learn how to do something, use it, do it, don't forget it. If you like to write, write. If you like making videos, make videos. And I think streamers say this all the time. You just got to go. You just got to do it. So yeah, that would be my big tips is like, don't be afraid to try new things, but like build foundations places, build foundations, keep trying, build upon other things. You will get better. You will learn how to apply them places. And then just make as much as you can. Not money, which is good, but content or whatever it is that you do it more. And apply it to help people if you can. I guess last one, I wrote this one down is, and I've learned this several times and I don't want to learn it again. The moment you think you know everything is the moment you're probably being an asshole and you don't know shit. As the deeper I get into politics, the more people I meet and the more I realize like, oh my God, I don't know anything about that. We're doing this push now on getting rid of ICBMs and the new future ICBMs and how much money we're spending on nuclear arms development just in terms of nuclear delivery. And there's just so much going on that as soon as you think you're like, oh, I know everything, you probably don't know anything, and you should listen more.
Yeah, if you find yourself the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
That's right. That's exactly right. Or you're just not listening enough,
Mm-hmm.
because everyone has different experiences, different insights on things. I remember meeting one of the consultants I worked with. We fired them, but one of them meeting with me about this district in Arizona, and this district was very unique. It had only existed for like 10 or 12 years. A Democrat had never run. There had never been a Democrat even run for this seat. There had been someone on the ballot, but they hadn't raised money or campaigned or done anything, right? So I'm meeting with this consultant, and we're at lunch or something, and I say, this district is different than a lot of districts. And he stopped me and said, oh, there it is. It only took you 45 minutes to get to the point where you're trying to tell me that your district's so special. And his point was, no, they're all the same. You have to do these things, this, and this, and that's how you win. Oh. And it was absurd to me. It was wild that he would just, all the boots on the ground information we're getting, don't care. You need to do 5 mailers at this money. And that really struck me the wrong way. And it's the wrong way to go about things. You should be learning all the time and picking up as much as you can.
Beautiful. Keep learning. Keep pushing yourself. Have an open mind. Don't be the smartest person in the room. Good shit. Well, good shit, right? Hey, now it brings us to the Leftist Inquisition. This is great. We got a good amount of time to chat about some things and dig in here, have some fun. Everyone loves the Inquisition. Ryan.
That's right.
Do you have a favorite word?
I do. I had to think about this for a while. I do. My favorite word is some combination of published, complete, done. Like when something is done and it is out in the world, that is the best feeling. I know when I finish my Thursday night calls every week, it's just this breath of fresh air. Like, oh my God, I'm so glad I don't have to worry about that for another week. But just being done, it's completed, it's published, it's on the internet. That is the best word to hear.
Beautiful. Then how about least favorite word?
Least favorite word is something like they, and I don't mean that in the gender pronoun variety. Yeah. I mean that in the they say, or they're saying that, and people will just tell you something that is absolutely not true, or framing something as Democrats say, and it's like, whoa, who? Give me specifics, because they does not exist, especially when you're talking about the left or Democrats. There's such a wide variety of thoughts, and people just use legitimately like Facebook memes to learn about science and stuff. And so like, I hate it when people say like they say.
Yeah. Then the next question, Ryan, is about a favorite drug. Vice, guilty pleasure, or you can name one of each.
Word. So I live in Indiana, so I can't answer this question fully. So just say that. Alternative, I don't drink at all. I've been almost 2 years alcohol free, not because I'm an alcoholic, just because I don't like it. Just gave up on it. Drank plenty in college, not for me anymore. Yeah. Besides that, I do a lot of writing. Do yard work a lot now too. Yeah, although we just got 2 inches of snow, so not going right now. Yeah, I know, horrible.
Hard pass.
Yeah,
I don't want that. I thought we were past snow.
I did too.
Ryan, on to noises or sounds. Is there one that you love?
Nature. Me and my wife go camping a lot, or we used to. So water, awesome. Wind, awesome. Nature. That's one of our biggest vices, I guess, and what we do in our free time when we can.
That's beautiful. A sound or noise you dislike or hate?
I guess any type of alarm. Can't stand it. Microwave beeps or anything like that. Awful.
Absolutely.
Also, Mitch McConnell's voice, difficult.
He's the worst, dude. I hate that guy. All right, so my next question, I have to preface it with: have you spent a meaningful amount of your time in either Wisconsin or France?
No.
Okay.
But I do have
Yeah.
a decent answer for you.
Oh, okay. So the next question is, what's your favorite cheese? And you only get one answer.
Okay. I have a favorite cheese.
All
I
right.
don't know what it's called, but I can give
okay.
you some context.
Ooh, let's try to figure it out. Chad, are you ready? Here we go. On your toes.
You won't, because I don't have the answer.
Yeah.
So you asked me about my favorite vice, which I couldn't answer, but I can tell you I studied abroad at the University of Amsterdam, and all the thumbs up, all of them. And there'd be street vendors, and sometimes they'd just be selling blocks of cheese. So you go after school, yeah, I'm gonna get some of this cheese. And we didn't do this for our, me and the other people I was there with, we didn't do this for a long time, because we're like, cheese is cheese. No,
honey,
cheese is European cheese. It was shocking. There was this type of cheese that it tasted like an entire Taco Bell meal, the whole thing. It was like, oh, there's sour cream in there, there's ground beef in there, there's lettuce. It was the whole thing with one little piece of cheese. And so we started buying just obscure cheeses. We couldn't pronounce any of it. It didn't matter. We'd also get a bottle of wine that we were like, doesn't matter. And so there was some cheese in Amsterdam that I had, specifically the Taco Bell cheese, which you'll never find it by Googling that. But seriously incredible. Was one of the biggest, what I call reverse culture shock, coming back here, being like, man, there was just a sandwich over there was not a sandwich here. It was a gourmet experience. That every lunch we had like a private chef at the university just make us food. Woo. It was incredible. I went to IU on a full ride scholarship.
Okay.
Need based, because I was poor. But I took out a loan to go to Amsterdam, and it was worth every penny.
Fuck yeah, congrats. Way to go. Good move, dude.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so Ryan, good cheese. I like an obscure cheese that it's so obscure we don't even know what it is. The next question is about reincarnation. If you came back as a plant or a non-human animal, and if you had the choice, what would you come back as?
That's such a tough one. I don't have a good answer for this at all.
That's fine. You can pass or skip any question if I haven't mentioned. Yeah.
I'm super allergic to so many animals. Yeah. So and trees. So I suck. I like nature a lot, but right now, especially with the changing seasons, has been destroying me. If I came back as anything, probably like a fish, man, to be honest, real cicadas, kind of doing my own thing. I don't know. I don't have any great answer there.
It's cool. Hey, then how about the God question? If you died at the end of your life, what would you like? If you find out heaven and God, if you're like, whoa, this is actually real. What would you hope God would say to you?
I think that if I was just going to be one answer, I would like to hear good enough, cool. But ultimately, I would probably like to hear answers to the questions that all the religions are already trying to answer. Why do you exist? And also, we're killing people and there are starving people. I'd probably get into an argument with God, to keep it real with you. Yeah. He'd be like, no, this is the way it has to be. And I'll be like, you're wrong. You do not need to have starving people. Ultimately, I'd like to hear him say that, him or her, say that I did good enough. And then I would like to push back on everything.
It's a popular answer, not to knock you or for any perceived unoriginality. I'm not trying to say that. I shouldn't even say that. Jesus Christ, damn. I'm a terrible person and interviewer. So, Ryan, all right, let's think of an influential leftist. You could find that word any way you like. An influential leftist, be them dead or alive. You'd love the chance to be able to meet.
I have two or three names that come to mind right away. John Brown, right away.
All
I
right.
have not watched the HBO series yet about him, the Good Bird Sing, Good Lord Bird, whatever it's called. But John Brown is an absolute G, an absolute hero for the left. And reading about what he did, and not just the goals of what's it called now? I have to ferry. What's it called?
Harper's
Wherever
Ferry.
Harper's Ferry.
I
Storm
only
the
say that
armor.
because I pulled it up. I'm not smart, dude. I just happen to have the
All good.
Wikipedia pulled up here.
Yeah,
He's got
John
that
Brown.
stare, dude. Yeah.
Oh, the absolute best. The absolute best. And his goal was to create like, and I don't want to get this wrong because your chat will light me up, but like,
No.
hey, no, they're nice, right?
They're nice. They're very nice.
He was gonna start like a black country in the Appalachia. So like he had these huge goals, and he was ultimately fighting the good fight. And he's the ultimate money where your mouth is type of dude. He brought arms against the United States government to end slavery, and it was ultimately John Brown that resulted in the Civil War. John Brown storming Harper's Ferry was the precursor to the Civil War, and it inspired people. And it's just in today, with the Chauvin trial, thank God that he was guilty on those 3 counts. What happened to George Floyd, and with everything we're seeing now, John Brown is a true example of like, you can fight racism, but like you can actually fight racism.
Literally.
And so him, and then I would say Eugene Debs. He's from Indiana. So I remember learning about him in college and being like, oh my God, Indiana produced this amazing person who ran for president like 4 or 5 times as a socialist, once from prison. I have his like Eugene Debs biography, but as a graphic novel, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of my very early heroes. I'm reading one of his books right now. That's just a collection of his speeches, as well as a nice intro that kind of lays out his entire premise, how he got to where he got to as a labor leader. This is turn of the century, and he's a hardcore anti-racist, anti-sexist, pushing for labor, a progressive through and through, a real leftist, a socialist. So yeah, him. And then I'd say lastly, MLK would have loved that opportunity. Yeah, and these are all great orators, great speakers from different times in history and at different inflection points. So yeah, those would be my 3 people I'd want to talk with.
Okay, we had Debs there. Oh my gosh, and I've already forgotten the last one you just said.
Gene Debs, MLK, and John Brown.
All right, so now, given the chance to speak to any or all of them or whatever, you can have this hypothetical conversation any way you like. But generally speaking, what do you think they would say? Either about you, about the world. What would you like them to say about you? What would you ask them? Have a hypothetical question and let us listen to it.
Yeah, so I guess my hypothetical question would be, how do you keep on keeping on? Because what those 3 people did that I've not yet done is be in the fight longer. John Brown was doing radical stuff way before he raided Harper's Ferry. Eugene Debs was legit a leader of the leftist socialist movement for 40 years in the U.S. Martin Luther King obviously was assassinated way before he ever would have passed away naturally. And so just talking about them, how they stayed in the fights for as long as they did, despite the huge amount of pushback and violence that they encountered. I mean, John Brown knew he was going to die, and he did it anyways. Eugene Debs went to prison, defended himself in court, and then was like organizing the prisoners, and ultimately let out because he still had lots of power. He won something like 20% of the vote one of those years, it was a good amount. It was over 10%, but as a third party, that was huge. And he was constantly being berated by, I think it was Woodrow Wilson. Back then, the postmaster, the dude who was in charge of the mail, was a really important person. Postmaster Burleson is a famous name from back then. And so, yeah, just what they went through and just to keep on keeping on is the most inspiring. So that's what I'd want to talk about. I'd want to hear from them. What do I think they'd think about us today? Martin Luther King Jr. is close enough that I think he would understand the context of today just fine. I think John Brown and Eugene Debs would be pretty shocked by the world we live in today. The hyper capitalistic, advertising based everything that we live in now. So I think it would be pretty shocking to them, but I'd love to hear what they'd have to say.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they would say, though.
All good. Love it. Love these answers. Loving the chat so far, Ryan. Now, a couple of questions left. Feel free to name a favorite leftist book or resource.
Yeah, a couple. Yeah, I mentioned one earlier, Republic Lost by Lawrence Lessig. Okay. Really good one just for understanding how America became completely owned by corporations, especially in the political process. One of the great analogies in that book is that money in politics is like water on concrete. Doesn't matter where you put it or how little there is, it will always find the cracks and get to where it needs to go. And it will always run and always find a stream. So, yeah, there it is. I got my copy signed when I actually got to meet him and work with him in Ferguson, which was the nerdiest thing I've ever done in my life.
So and there's no wrong answer to that question. I just want to know, is he like a traditional leftist? I think he's like a libertarian, right?
So he is a Harvard professor. I don't think he's a libertarian.
Okay.
No, he's not a libertarian. He's totally focused on money and politics. So I think he's like a good progressive, but I also am not 100% sure. He stays very issue focused as opposed to big picture most of the time.
If they pull you to the left in any way, shape, or form, that's a great answer to the question. I don't mean to like push back or anything in that sense.
No, you're good. There's some really interesting ideas in that book that maybe don't hold up to time. One of them is that was played with a year or two ago. People talking about it was the idea of like democracy dollars. Like everyone getting X number of dollars that we can fund our own campaigns, but we just get them. You get 50 or 100 democracy dollars. Spend it on any political campaign you want. Check that out. He proposes 3 or 4 different potential solutions and the benefits and drawbacks of each. But he's just a really good thinker, really strong academic. Definitely very influential to me. I'd say anything you can read by Debs, any of those speeches are great. They're slow reads for me because it's not modern English. It's close, but it's wordier. It's just different how they talk back then. But those are all really good. Let me look back. Right now I'm reading War is a Lie.
Yeah.
Can you see it? War is a Lie by David Swanson, which is great. The
deep state is blurring it.
Yeah, they don't want you to see it. I have a lot of books though. There's a lot of really great like graphic novel types too that are good just for flipping through. Yeah.
Cool. Definitely might want to check that graphic novel out. That looks really fun. So I think we got a couple more questions in the Inquisition. Oh yeah. So as a producer of streams, and I'm sure you watch them too, what tips do you have either for the beginners or the veterans?
So when I started I was never a streamer. I made some YouTube videos that aren't great or whatever. Engaging with your audience is number one, whether it's streaming or it's answering YouTube comments. Engage with everyone. I would say do everything you can to influence the algorithms. Do everything you can. And you don't always know what you can do. So if they give you an option to do something, do something. So it gets frustrating sometimes, having worked in marketing for a long time. And, every year or two, there's the YouTube's coming for the leftists. They're taking us down. Or there was at one point, I don't want to say names because it's too brutal. But there'll be, I was gaining audience at this pace last year, and now this year I'm not. It's like, well, your takes changed, and there are more competitors now, and things like that. So while YouTube is always going to give, or Twitch, wherever we are, big brands are always going to have a leg up pretty much always, even if they just literally are cheated and put into like a special category. Have a website, work with Google SEO, have your tags right. God, I'm just trying to think. Like, there are so many shows that have 1 million followers but don't have a website. And when YouTube's like, "What's your website?" and you don't put anything there, then not knowing what the algorithm does, we know it's not helping you. So there's only the chance that it helps, essentially. So having those kind of things, doing absolutely everything you can. If they give you an option, use it in some way, because you don't know what the algorithms are. And that's the problem with Google and the internet and Facebook and all these things, is we don't know the algorithms. So the only thing you can do is do your best to influence them. And so that means clickbaity titles a lot of the times. That means having a gimmick up front to keep people held on for more than 5 seconds so you get them deeper into the video. There's a lot of tricks and dumb stuff that are like annoying, but like do work. So I wish the left had more marketing know-how and legitimate like digital marketing. This is what you need to do. This is how you create a funnel to get people to start watching, which then you direct them to your deeper, longer form content, and then direct them to an action or subscribing. That type of marketing stuff, the left could learn a lot about. Yeah. But for just streamers, be cool and engage with your audience. Yeah. That's the easiest things to do.
Hey, cool. Great advice. I think I'm getting something out of that. A lot of others will too. All right, Ryan. So then I got to ask you. No, that's it. Yeah, I got to ask if you have any questions. You don't have to ask me any questions, but it doesn't need to be entirely one-sided. I wanted to keep that open. And what we can also do is open up questions to the chat. And if you're not watching that, I can pass along anything that I think you might want to answer, and you can ignore anything that you don't.
I haven't seen the chat yet, so please pass it along.
All right, chat, let me know. And otherwise, it's your turn. We got fucking probably 10 minutes to hang out at least, dude.
Yeah. Hey, how did you get into this niche?
Like the streamings, or
yeah,
like
how
the political.
Did you start? Why did you start streaming?
Yeah.
Did you just start? Were you doing streaming for everybody? Like, did you decide I want to be a producer, and then from that you got into politics, and from that you were like, I should do my own as well? What was that process like for you?
That's pretty accurate. I also knew I wanted to sort of do like some streaming myself, but also find a way to, very much like I'm doing right now, have sort of a platform where I can amplify important voices. So,
right.
Very much in the spirit of this interview show here. And yeah, so along the way, I don't know. I'm looking back to like people like Kyle Kulinski, and I don't necessarily agree with his takes, but
right.
I was like, wow, you can do it. You can do it on your own. And I just really wanted to do that for the longest time, but I sort of got sucked into doing a bunch of different jobs, sort of trying out a few different careers, and nothing quite worked. And I had a nice little work from home job, sort of for 8 months or so before the pandemic. And then the pandemic hit and I lost my job, and I'm like, I got to make some money from home. I got to try something else. And I've always wanted to stream. So I raised some money and started streaming. It wasn't overtly political at first, but I sort of couldn't help it, and eventually I started talking about political stuff after seeing folks like Hassan. I'm like, oh wow, the guy's pretty inspiring. He does some really big shit, and there are other big names as well that have inspired me. And I just started doing the politics thing, and it seemed to gain traction. So I just sort of made that a consistent thing. I stream just about every day, and and now I'm doing the interview show as I have sort of developed some goals and some focus in my life. And who knows how that'll evolve. But here we are right now.
Goals are good.
Yeah.
Goals are good. Long-term, short-term, lots of them that don't fit together. But having an idea of where you want to go, I've found is key for me, especially when it comes to deciding what you're going to do professionally. Because I've done a lot of things too, from different marketing agencies. I worked in the tech world briefly, and that's where I met the candidate that hired me to be your campaign manager. I've worked a lot of places, a lot of different campaigns. And one of the best decisions I ever made was I had accepted a job on a campaign at the start of 2020.
Mhm.
The day I accepted that job, I got offered another job, and I took the other job. And it was it felt so bad to call them up 2 hours after I accepted a job and say, yo, never mind. I found something that's better for me.
Yeah.
Doing that and having the courage to do that and try new things and find your niche, I think is really, really important. And you know, having goals and taking control of your life so those decisions are informed.
Yeah. I mean, another thing that I was thinking about is like, yeah, like I'm sort of like trying to, you know, look around and notice what's missing, you know, and I think a show like this is missing. I don't see anyone else doing it. So I figured I'd just do it. You know, I sort of woke up one morning, you know, it's every morning, and I'm like, holy shit, I have the means of production to an extent. You know, I'm on the internet or YouTube or Twitch, but like, I got this great computer. I can make the media, and it's just up to me to go do it. And so that was fucking 4 or 5 weeks ago. I had sort of a light bulb moment, and then out started going my invites for the show, and it's just been a wild ride. I have 63 interviews scheduled for this month. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, dude.
That's a ton. But that's good. You know, and leftist unity specifically is something we need and something that is deeply difficult to do. Deeply, deeply, deeply difficult. Even in my own local DSA chapter, which has been a wild ride, a lot of fun, a lot of work to put together, there are disagreements and getting accustomed to, I feel like in our everyday lives, almost none of us exist in like democratic institutions. So being able to respect normal people making decisions is weird and it's new to us. We don't just get to do what we want and stuff sometimes. So I forget where I was going with that, but
No problem.
Whatever.
Ryan, question from the chat. I don't know if you can answer this. How much does one charge to be a campaign manager? Can a campaign manager's salary be paid out of donations money? Is that legal?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, couple questions there. A campaign manager's salary is a huge, huge range. Okay, so I know on a big Senate campaign or something, and in politics, you mostly get paid monthly. So this is your monthly check, and it's mostly contract work. So I know campaign managers who are making 10 grand a month. And yeah, right. No, I know. Those establishment campaigns that make a lot of money, they pay a lot of money too. Not every position though. That's high up positions. Campaign manager. If you're going to be a campaign manager on a local state house race, it might be a volunteer position. I mean, that's the range we're talking about. A presidential might be 12,000 to 10 to 12,000 a month. But the pay can be anything. It's ultimately up to you what you value your work at. I know when I was a campaign manager, I didn't make that much money, nowhere near 10 or 5 or 4 even. Like I was not making much, but that's because it was really, really difficult being a people-powered campaign in a place that had never had one. You know, AOC could pay her staff really well because millions of dollars came into her campaign. The same is not true about the vast majority of campaigns. You're talking about, you know, I think our campaign brought in like $500,000 or something, but a mail run, 50 grand, you know, buying into the van is several $1,000s. Getting your signs printed is a couple $1,000s there. And staff takes the majority of money. So huge range. Having an idea of how much you need to survive is really critical. But yeah, 3 to 4 to 5 is probably like normal for like a house race. But then you have people who manage 3 campaigns at once. Then there's like a state. They run them as a slate, and that allows for you to make a full-time living doing it. If you're running 2 or 3 campaigns at once, each campaign can maybe only pay you $1,000 or $1,500 a month or something. But then you got to pay taxes on that at the end too. So keep that in mind.
Probably like that one guy who was like, no, this is the way that I do it. Your state's not
right, exactly.
unique.
He's probably making a ton of money.
This is my format.
They have clients on retainer, so they're just going to do the minimum for each. But I would urge strongly that find a candidate that you care about and you believe in. Because if you're doing something for someone you don't care about and it's only about money, you will hate your life. You will hate your life, because campaign manager is the hardest job I've ever done, because everything that happens is your fault, the good and the bad. Anything that's not being done is your fault. Not that my candidate treated me poorly. She was amazing.
No.
But just that you will feel bad for everything you don't get done. So it just has to be worth it to you.
Okay. Before I give you another question from Chad, any other questions for you, for me? I didn't want to cut that off. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. We'll keep doing questions.
Cool. Yeah, another campaign manager question. What do they do on a daily basis? Is it a ton of effort?
Okay. I see the other one though about money too. You get paid from donations. They say however much your campaign raises is what your campaign raises, and you can pay. So it's just like with all the money goes into one pool for an actual campaign that's taking in money. And then what was that second question? A ton of work?
Yeah, is it a lot of work? What do they do on a daily basis?
So yeah. This is a great question. On a daily basis, you would, I'd go to my map. I have a map 8 feet by 5 feet of the district, and I'm writing on it all day. I'm targeting it. I'm looking at demographic information of precincts. I'm finding out how many people live there, what type of voters they are, their age, their ethnicity, their everything. You're learning as much as you can about the district at all time. You're also doing something called cutting lists, which you'll hear a lot from establishment types. This is where you get into the van, which is your voter database on the Democratic side, and you're looking at a neighborhood and you're literally drawing lines around an area that you want someone to go knock those doors. And so in Arizona, in 115 degree heat, I could give someone 30 doors. I could give an experienced knocker 40 doors about, but you can't give them more than that because they'll never come back or they'll die, right? Because it's hot. So you're balancing a lot of that. You're launching phone banks. You're writing scripts all the time, always writing scripts. You're trying to discover new ways to reach people. So one thing we did, postcard parties. We'd have 15 or 20 volunteers come down to the office and write postcards. And we ended up sending 30,000 handwritten postcards on that campaign. Wow. It's a ton, but a postcard for us, was the most effective way we could communicate with anybody. To get something handwritten means it is getting read. It is not ending up in the trash. We probably spent like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 on stamps. And then you're also doing stuff like putting up signs in the street, those annoying signs on street corners and stuff. There's a limited amount of time you're allowed to do that. And in a competitive area like Maricopa County, where Phoenix, where I was, Scottsdale, Phoenix, if you're not there first, you're behind everybody. So you had to be there at 7 a.m. on the day you're allowed to do it, and you're using a pounder to pound stakes into the desert to put your sign up, and you're budgeting constantly. There's something called call time, which is a really gross thing candidates do, where they just get on the phone and call people for money. Yeah. My candidate quit doing that shit quick because it's awful and it's demeaning and it's dehumanizing, and it doesn't always work that great unless you can be like, the DCCC has already said I'm the best. So there's a lot of things depending on the type of campaign you're on that you're doing. But if at any point you're not busy, you're doing it wrong. Booking, I booked my candidate on the damage report and TYT a couple times. And if I would have done it this year, we would have been on other shows.
All right. Well, Ryan, I think that's a perfect time to wrap up our chat. I got to tell you, I really hope you'll be willing, and we'll be able to find some time to bring you back on and start digging in a little bit to some of these things here that we were able to bring up today. Ryan, you've been a really, truly wonderful guest. We invited you here in the spirit of building leftist unity, strength, and power. And in that spirit, I really appreciate our time today. Like I said, looking forward to bringing you back. Comrade, you're a wonderful human being and a great person, and love you just the way you are, and I'm looking forward to our next chat. All right, buddy?
Hey, thank you very much. I feel very unified now. I feel good about everything.
Yeah,
And
baby.
I'll come back anytime you need me. You just let me know, okay?
Love it. Solidarity. See you next time, brother. All right.
See you later.
Yeah. Oops. I think I broke it, but it's okay. I'll fix it. All right. See you now. Yeah. That's Ryan. Hey, YouTube. You're watching a clip from my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/iDanSimpson, where you can follow for free and subscribe for only $5 a month. Thanks for watching.